I, 32 male, am a structural engineer by trade. I deal in load-bearing capacities, stress fractures, and failing foundations. I can look at a building and tell you exactly where the cracks are starting before they ever reach the surface. My marriage to my wife, however, was a structure I'd been trying to reinforce for 6 months, ignoring the fact that the foundation had already rotted through completely. We were sitting in our couples therapist's office, a room that always smelled overwhelmingly of lavender and stale anxiety. We had been going for about 8 weeks because my wife had been feeling lost. That was her code for being distant, guarding her phone like it contained nuclear codes, and picking fights over things that didn't matter. She would blow up if I loaded the dishwasher incorrectly, or if I worked late to pay for the kitchen remodel she demanded. The therapist, Dr. Eris, was a soft-spoken woman who seemed increasingly tired of our circular arguments. On this particular Tuesday, she finally decided to cut through the noise. She looked at my wife and asked a question that was clearly meant to be a hypothetical exercise in prioritization, a way to gauge commitment levels. If everything was stripped away, Dr. Eris said, leaning forward, her pen poised, if you had to make a choice right now between your husband and this past connection you keep bringing up, your ex, who would you choose? The room went quiet. I expected the standard therapy answer. You know the drill, something like, I choose my husband, but I need closure, or I choose us, but I'm confused. My wife didn't hesitate. She didn't even look at me. She stared at a spot on the carpet and said, in a voice terrifyingly steady, if I had to choose between him and my ex right now, I'd choose my ex. We have unfinished business. The passion, it's just different with him. Dr. Eris stopped writing. Her pen just hovered over her notepad. The silence that followed wasn't just quiet. It was a vacuum. It sucked the air out of the room. I felt a cold snap in my chest. It wasn't pain, surprisingly. It was clarity. The kind of clarity you get when you realize the bridge is collapsing and there is no fixing it. Only getting off before you fall into the ravine. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I simply stood up. Then go choose him, I said. My wife's head snapped up, eyes wide, finally looking at me. What? Sit down. We're in the middle of a session. You can't just... I can, I interrupted. I looked at the therapist. You can bill me for the full hour. I'm done. I walked out. I heard her scrambling behind me, the sound of her chair scraping against the floor. You're running away. This is exactly what I mean. You never fight for us. I kept walking, got into my truck, and drove. I didn't go home. I went to a hotel downtown, the kind that caters to business travelers and doesn't ask questions. I turned my phone off for 3 hours just to stare at the ceiling and breathe. When I finally turned it back on, I had 14 missed calls and a voicemail from her. I played it. Her voice was thick with tears, but beneath the crying was a layer of venomous entitlement that I had been ignoring for years. I can't believe you walked out on me. That was a safe space. I was being honest with my feelings. You just left me there. You need to come home right now and apologize for abandoning me. I didn't mean I'd leave you. I meant emotionally I feel pulled. Just come home and fix this. She didn't want the ex because she loved him. She wanted the ex because he was a fantasy, the bad boy from her past. And she wanted me because I paid the mortgage and funded her lifestyle. She wanted to have her cake, and eat it too, while I held the plate and cleaned up the crumbs. I didn't call back. Instead, I opened my banking app. I am meticulous with finances. It comes with the engineering territory. I noticed a withdrawal from our joint savings account, the emergency fund intended for house repairs. $5,000. Withdrawn 2 days ago. I scrolled back further. Another $2,000 last week. I felt sick. I called the bank immediately to freeze the joint accounts and remove her authorization from my credit cards, but the damage to the cash reserves was done. $7,000 gone. I logged into our cell phone provider to check the call logs. Hundreds of texts to a number I didn't recognize, starting 3 months ago. I wasn't just being left for an ex. I was funding the reunion. I went back to the house the next morning at 10 a.m. I knew she would be at her marketing job, or at least she should have been. I needed my birth certificate, my passport, and my hard drives. The essentials before I burned this life to the ground legally. I unlocked the front door and walked into the master bedroom. I froze. The closet was open. Half of my clothes were thrown onto the floor, kicked into a pile in the corner. But that wasn't the shock. Sitting on the bed, wearing my bathrobe, was a guy. It was him, the X-Mark. He looked rough, maybe 35, thinning hair, looking like he hadn't slept in a week. He was playing a video game on the console I bought, feet up on the bedspread. "Whoa! Hey, man," he said, barely looking up from the screen. "Sarah said you weren't coming back for a few days." The audacity was so thick I could taste it. She had moved him in less than 24 hours after I walked out of therapy. "Get out," I said. Low. Dangerous. "Chill out," he sneered, finally pausing the game. "Sarah owns this house, too. She said I could crash here while I get back on my feet. I'm going through a rough patch. Don't be a jerk about it. This is my house. Get out." "Or what?" He stood up. He was shorter than me, but scrappy. The type of guy who starts fights in bars and sues when he loses. "You gonna hit me?" "Please do. Sarah said you have a temper. I'll sue you so fast you'll lose the rest of your hair." I realized then what I was dealing with. This wasn't a romance. It was a parasitic infection. Sarah had fed him a narrative that I was a villain, the angry, controlling husband, and she was the victim who needed rescuing. I didn't hit him. I pulled out my phone and started recording. "You are trespassing. I am asking you to leave." "I'm a guest," he smirked, sitting back down. "Call the cops. They won't do anything. It's a civil matter. I've got rights if I'm an invited guest." He was unfortunately right. In our state, if a spouse invites someone in, it's a nightmare to get them out immediately without a court order, especially if they claim tenancy. I grabbed my documents, my laptop, and a few suits. As I walked out, Sarah pulled into the driveway. She rushed inside, looking frantic, and saw me in the hallway with my bags. "What are you doing here?" she demanded, looking for me to the bedroom where the ex was still sitting. "I live here, Sarah. Or I did. You moved him in? It's been less than a day." "He has nowhere to go," she screamed, throwing her hands up. "He's going through a hard time. I'm just helping a friend. Why are you being so controlling? This is why our marriage is failing. You have no empathy. You said in therapy you'd choose him. Looks like you did." That was a hypothetical. She stomped her foot like a toddler. "I need him here for support because you abandoned me. You cut off the credit cards this morning. How am I supposed to buy? Groceries? How am I supposed to feed us?" "Us." I laughed, a dry, humorless sound. "You mean him? You stole $7,000 from our savings." "Sarah, was that for groceries?" Her face went pale, then red. "That was a loan. He's going to pay it back when his business takes off. You're so obsessed with money. It's disgusting. If you aren't going to support me emotionally or financially, then leave. Get out of my house." "Our house," I corrected. "My house," she shrieked. I picked out the paint. "I made it a home. You just paid for it." I walked past her. "I'll see you in court." "If you leave," she threatened. "Follow me to the truck. I'm going to tell everyone you hit me. I'm going to tell them you abuse me financially by cutting off my access to money. My lawyer says that's abuse." I stopped. My hand was on the door handle of my truck. I turned and looked at her. "You have a lawyer?" "I consulted one this morning," she smirked, crossing her arms. "You're not the only one who can prepare. You're going to pay, literally. I want alimony. I want the house. And I want you to pay for my legal fees because you're the one ending this." I didn't say another word. I just got in the truck and drove away. I went straight to a high-conflict divorce attorney. I didn't want a friendly mediator type who talks about conscious uncoupling. I needed a shark. I found a guy named Heller. He cost $450 an hour and looked like he ate nails for breakfast. I laid it all out for him. The therapy session, the therapist's notes would be subpoenaed, the withdrawal of funds, the ex living in the house, and the threat of false domestic violence accusations. "Here's the problem," Heller said, leaning back in his leather chair and steepling his fingers. "She's going to file for temporary support. She'll claim status quo. She's staying in the marital home. You left. She'll want you to continue paying a mortgage and utilities plus spousal support while the divorce is pending. And since she blew the savings, she'll claim poverty. She gave the money to him, I said. She basically stole it. We call that dissipation of marital assets, Heller said, his eyes gleaming. But we have to prove it. And we have to prove the affair isn't just emotional, or the no-fault state laws make the adultery irrelevant for the divorce itself, though it matters for money. She threatened to lie about abuse. I told him. She said she'd tell everyone I hit her. Heller sat up straighter. Did you record it? No. I lied, feeling stupid. But then I remembered something. Wait, we have a Ring doorbell. And I installed internal cameras in the living room and hallway for the dog when we're at work. I haven't checked them, but they record audio and video to the cloud. We pulled up the app right there in his office. My heart was pounding. There it was, the driveway argument. Her screaming, I'm going to tell everyone you hit me. I'm going to tell them you abused me financially, clearly recorded in high-definition audio. Heller smiled. It was a terrifying smile. That's our golden ticket. But we don't use it yet. We wait. Wait for what? I asked. Let her file, Heller said. Let her put it in a sworn affidavit. If she lies to the court in a sworn statement, and we prove it's perjury, we destroy her credibility for everything else. We let her dig the grave, stand in it, and then we fill it in. 3 days later, I was served. It was a temporary restraining order, TRO, and a motion for exclusive use of the marital residence. Her affidavit was a work of fiction that would have impressed Stephen King. She claimed I had been volatile and aggressive, that I had financially strangled her, and that she felt unsafe in her own home. She requested $3,500 a month in temporary spousal support. She had done exactly what she threatened. She used the legal system as a weapon to keep the house and fund her life with the ex. The hearing for the TRO and temporary orders was set for 3 weeks later. In that time, I stayed at a friend's place on his couch. I hired a forensic accountant to trace the $7,000. As predicted, the money didn't go to a business investment. It went directly to a DraftKings account linked to the ex's name and a down payment for a lifted Ford F-150 that was registered to him. The guy was using my savings to gamble and accessorize his truck while living in my house. We walked into the courtroom. Sarah was there with her lawyer, looking frail and dressed in modest clothes I'd never seen her wear. No jewelry, hair pulled back. She was playing the role of the terrified housewife perfectly. The ex was nowhere to be seen, smart on their part. Her lawyer started his opening statement. Your Honor, my client is terrified. Her husband abandoned her, cut off all funds, and has a history of intimidation. We are asking for the TRO to be made permanent and for exclusive possession of the home. The judge, a stern woman with glasses on the end of her nose who looked like she had zero tolerance for nonsense, looked at my lawyer. Mr. Heller? Your Honor. Heller stood up, looking calm. The claims of abuse are entirely fabricated to secure a tactical advantage in this divorce and facilitate the wife's paramour living in the marital home. We have video evidence refuting the petitioner's claims. Sarah stiffened. Her lawyer looked confused. They didn't know about the cameras. They thought, because I didn't hold up a phone, I wasn't recording. We played the video on the courtroom monitors. The courtroom was silent as Sarah's voice rang out, clear as day. I'm going to tell everyone you hit me. I'm going to tell them you abused me financially. Then we played the clip from the hallway camera of the ex in my bathrobe. Sarah owns this house too. I'll sue you so fast. The judge's face went hard. She looked at Sarah. Mrs. X, did you swear under oath in your affidavit that you were afraid for your physical safety? Sarah stammered, her face flushing a deep crimson. I felt threatened emotionally. He was so cold. His demeanor was aggressive. Emotional coldness is not ground for a restraining order, nor is it justification for perjury. The judge snapped. Heller pushed the advantage immediately. Your Honor, we also have bank records showing Mrs. X withdrew $7,000 of marital funds to pay for a truck down payment and gambling debts of a man currently residing in the marital home, Mr. Mark Y., while claiming she had no money for groceries. He submitted the forensic accounting report. The paper trail was undeniable. The judge reviewed the documents. She took off her glasses. The temporary restraining order is dismissed with prejudice, the judge ruled. The petitioner has committed perjury in my courtroom. Furthermore, I am granting the respondent, the husband, exclusive use of the marital home effectively immediately. Mrs. X, you have 24 hours to vacate the premises and take your guests with you. But I have nowhere to go. Sarah wailed, dropping the act completely. He kicked me out. I can't afford an apartment. Perhaps, the judge said, stacking her papers, you should have thought about that before you used family savings to buy a truck for a man who is not your husband. Request for spousal support is denied pending the final equitable distribution hearing. I went back to the house the next day with a sheriff's deputy to ensure the peace while they moved out. The house was a mess. They had tried to take things. The TV, the blender, even the expensive sheets I had bought before we got married. The deputy made them put it all back. The ex, Mark, looked at me with pure hatred but said nothing. He drove off in the truck that I had technically paid for the down payment on. For now. Sarah stood by her car, boxes of clothes at her feet. She looked small. The arrogance was gone, replaced by a desperate, frantic look. You can't do this, she said, tears streaming down her face. I made a mistake. I was confused. Please, can we just talk? Mark isn't who I thought he was. He got mad at me for losing the support money. He's not going to support me. I know, I said. That's why you chose him. You like the broken ones. I love you, she sobbed, reaching for my arm. The deputy stepped forward, but I held up a hand. You don't love me, Sarah. You love the safety I provided. You told the therapist you'd choose him. You made your choice. Now you have to live with it. But I have nothing. You have your ex, I said. Go be happy. I went inside and locked the door. The divorce took another 6 months to finalize. Because of the dissipation of assets, the judge deducted the $7,000, plus legal fees attributed to her perjury and bad faith conduct, from her share of the home equity. Since we hadn't owned the house that long, her equity was almost zero after the deductions. She walked away with less than $2,000 total. I kept the house. I refinanced to get her name off the title. Hi. I heard through mutual friends that Mark left her 2 weeks after the eviction. He found another woman with a steady job and a spare room. Sarah is currently living with her mother, working double shifts to pay off her own lawyer. She emails me sometimes. Long, rambling paragraphs about regret and how she didn't realize what she had until it was gone. I have a filter set up. They go straight to a folder I never open. I'm rebuilding. I repainted the walls. I bought new furniture. The silence in the house used to bother me, but now it feels like peace. I learned that loyalty isn't just about not sleeping with other people. It's about having your partner's back when the world gets heavy. She didn't have mine. She was just adding weight. I stood in the wreckage, cleared the debris, and now I'm building something new, something that won't crack under pressure.